What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, we have some shocking, or maybe it's not so shocking news that's very interesting. Is that now three-time junior middleweight world champion, former undisputed junior middleweight world champion, now the unified reigning junior middleweight world champion, superstar boxer, Jermell Ironman Charlo, who is now 35 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, 19 wins by way of knockout. He is 33 years of age, 5'11" and a half with a 73.5-inch arm reach. Jermell Charlo, shockingly, or maybe it's not so shockingly, after his highly anticipated mega showdown, the marquee fight, the biggest fight of his career, this past Saturday, September 30th, Las Vegas, Nevada, T-Mobile Arena, against 4th division world champion, Mexican superstar boxer, who is widely considered the face of the sport of boxing and is the undisputed super middleweight world champion in Saul Canelo Alvarez. Saul Canelo Alvarez is now 60 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws, 39 big wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age, 5'8" with a 70-inch arm reach. They fought last night, and Canelo Alvarez dominated this fight. I gave Jermell Charlo possibly the 5th round. He dropped Jermell Charlo in the 7th round. I predicted he would drop him in the 8th, but he dropped him in the 7th, and then won a unanimous decision, as I predicted. But after the fight, now Jermell Charlo didn't put up much resistance in his fight. He's usually very aggressive, very assertive, and plants his flag, stands his ground. In this fight, he utilized the ring, a lot of movement, and did not sit down and commit to any of his punches outside of the 5th round. He just was looking to survive. We got many people starting to question, was Jermell Charlo, who was quote-unquote daring to be great, jumping up from junior middleweight 154 to 168 super middleweight to challenge Canelo Alvarez when undisputed versus undisputed? It was a shocker that this fight was even announced to begin with. And Jermell Charlo didn't assert himself. He was quote-unquote daring to be great. And now Jermell Charlo, who didn't assert himself in this fight, again, he didn't give much effort in this fight. He simply looked like he came to survive, which led many fans to say, well, Jermell Charlo was there simply to gather a check. And now Jermell Charlo comes out after this loss. And Jermell Charlo states that he's not in boxing anymore for his legacy. He's solely in the sport of boxing now for as much money as he can get out the sport, which gained a lot of traction, a lot of momentum, and went viral because many people are suspecting you was in this Canelo Alvarez fight, although you called him out for over 10 years. You were simply in this fight, not because you actually thought that you could win, but because you knew you was going to get a massive revenue increase. And so Jermell Charlo stated that after the fight, he wanted to fight somebody that's been calling him out for quite some time, who happens to be considered the best fighter in the sport of boxing. And that's undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, now the reigning undisputed welterweight world champion, who is, like I said, widely acknowledged and recognized as the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terrence Boyd Crawford. Terrence Crawford is 40 wins, no loss, and no draw, 31 big wins by way of knockout. He is 36 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. It was a shocker that this was announced that Jermell Charlo was going to fight Canelo Alvarez because he had a mandatory challenge. He had been out the ring for 16 months, and he broke his hand, and he was supposed to fight undefeated Australian star boxer, son of a legend, Costa Tszyu, that being Tim Tszyu, who was the WBO mandatory challenger, and they already had a fight scheduled to fight in March. But Jermell Charlo got injured, had to keep pulling out the fight, and Tim Tszyu, he just stayed active, stayed busy, and continued to have fights while waiting for Jermell Charlo. And then when Jermell Charlo got healthy, he then abandoned that fight, and shockingly, to the world's surprise, he's fighting Canelo Alvarez. Everybody expected Jermell Charlo to face off against Tim Tszyu and his identical twin brother, undefeated two-division world champion, former unified junior middleweight world champion, and now the reigning WBC middleweight world champion, superstar boxer, Jermell Lions Only Charlo, who is 32 wins, no losses, no draws, is 22 wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age, obviously, 6 feet tall with a 74-inch arm reach. He's slightly taller, half-inch taller, half-inch arm reach advantage. But you can see when they're next to each other, he's definitely the bigger of the two, and he fights at 160. So it was expected to see Jermell Charlo fight Canelo. Then when it was announced it was Jermell Charlo, that threw the world for a loop, the boxing world that is. And it was a shocker. Because, again, Jermell Charlo was scheduled to fight Tim Tszyu. So then you had, prior to that, you had Terrence Bud Crawford calling out Jermell Charlo, stating that he wanted to face off against Jermell Charlo because Jermell Charlo, well, is a friend, a stablemate, and training partner of Terrence Crawford's biggest rival, and now former unified three-belt WBA, WBC, IBF welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, Earl the True Spence Jr., who is now 28 wins, 1 loss, no draw, 22 big wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. They fought July 29th, Las Vegas, Nevada, T-Mobile Arena, that being Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. And it built up a rivalry for Terrence Crawford with Jermell Charlo because prior to that, Terrence Crawford stated Jermell Charlo is Errol Spence's biggest cheerleader. And he stated that Errol Spence is going to knock me out. So after I beat Errol Spence, I want to fight Jermell Charlo and be a 3-division undisputed champion. Jermell Charlo has satisfied his mandatory and Tim Tszyu. I'm going to fight Errol Spence. Terrence Crawford held up his end of the bargain. Terrence Crawford faced off against Errol Spence, and he won in dramatic fashion. Dropped him in the 2nd round, twice in the 7th round, and stopped him in the 9th round. So he won. Dramatic fashion, right? And so it was expected that the 20-year-old undefeated Australian boxer, Tim Tszyu, who is 23 wins, no loss, no draw, 17 wins by way of knockout, 5'9" with a 72-inch arm reach, was going to fight Jermell Charlo. He would satisfy that fight and that mandatory, and then we could see Terrence Crawford versus Jermell Charlo. But Jermell Charlo, again, as we know, abandoned that fight. And now Jermell Charlo didn't look good in the fight with Canelo Alvarez. He didn't put his best foot forward. He didn't show a lot of effort. And Terrence Crawford is saying, I'm done. I'm off this fight with Jermell Charlo. I have no interest in fighting Jermell Charlo. And Jermell Charlo is saying that he only wants the big fights. Now, Tim Tszyu and another fighter, Brian Mendoza, who shocked the world knocking out Sebastian Fundora, Tim Tszyu and Brian and Mendoza are supposed to face off. And Jermell Charlo, who called out the World Boxing Organization for stripping him of his title immediately after being announced as the undisputed junior middleweight champions, just so he could have undisputed versus undisputed. He called out the WBO, and he initially stated that he should still be undisputed and that he would have to fight the winner of that fight. But now he since changed his mind and changed his tune and says he's only fighting for money from here on out. And the fight between himself and Tim Tszyu, or the winner of Tim Tszyu and Brian and Mendoza, does nothing for him. He's not going to fight that fight. It's not lucrative. It doesn't prosper. It doesn't benefit him financially. So he only wants to fight with Terrence Crawford or massive names from here on out. And this is the problem with the sport of boxing. Because as a sport, once these fighters get a taste of big money, they don't want to go back, as they shouldn't. But it hurts the sport moving forward. Because now their passion is no longer the same. Their passion and their love is no longer in it. Their commitment is not there. Now they're looking to secure the bag. And so now that he's saying that he wants to fight Terrence Crawford and solely Terrence Crawford, and no interest in the Tim Tszyu Mendoza fight, well, that's because right now he knows that Terrence Crawford represents a massive payday for him. He's not going to fight Errol Spence. So now he's saying that He's going straight into camp for Terrence Crawford and prepare for Terrence Crawford for a big fight after Terrence Crawford fights Errol Spence. So essentially saying that you believe Terrence Crawford is going to beat Errol Spence. And you prepare for that winner and you have no interest in Tim Tszyu. Sounds like Jermell Charlo could be on the verge of retiring, because how many big lucrative fights are out there outside of Terrence Crawford fight? He fights and loses to Terrence Crawford. What's there for Jermell Charlo following that? It makes sense now for Jermell Charlo to prepare for Tim Tszyu Mendoza winner, become undisputed again. You beat the winner of that fight. Terrence Crawford has to fight and beat Errol Spence again. Then you fight Terrence Crawford for undisputed. That would entice him. But what entices Terrence Crawford to fight Jermell Charlo now to be unified champion? His goal is to be undisputed. He's 36. He wants to fight Canelo ALVAREZ now. So Jermell Charlo has no more massive fights. And the output and the performance and the showing in the Canelo fight is going to hurt him as a pay-per-view star. Unless you have a mega dance partner, the fans are not going to buy into his pay-per-views because he didn't give his best effort. They'll buy into Errol Spence, although Errol Spence got dominated. He got stopped, dropped 3 times. At the end of the day, Errol Spence gave every inch of who he was in that fight, and he would have kept going still today if the referee and the doctors didn't say they saw enough. The fans will pay for that. They're not going to pay for that performance and outing by Jermell Charlo. So now Jermell Charlo says he's going right in camp solely for Terrence Crawford. And he's only fighting for money. It's unfortunate. Let's see how this unfolds and plays out, though, moving forward. And that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.